relegation all but sorted. One final game away to Roscommon, but I don't see any way out of this one. Of course, coming up on the show, as I say, Mayo legend John Casey, now top pundit with RT, will be joining us to give us the lowdown on what he thought of Donegal's performance yesterday, and of course where he thinks Mayo can go this season. Also on the show earlier today, I spoke with the sports editor with Iconic Media Group, Frank Craig. We wrapped up, as I say, the Donegal game yesterday. We talked in depth about where the squad and the management's at, and I suppose looked ahead to where we can go in the championship. And also myself and Frank discussed what was another tough weekend for Donegal ladies with a defeat to the Dubs. They've won last game, and if they won that game, they can stay up. So last chance saloon for Maxie Kearns' side. We discussed that. We discussed Luke Barrett's minors as well. They beat Cavan at the weekend, going very well. And of course our hurlers beat Tyrone as well in Division 2B. So all that to come with an interview with, as I say, Frank Craig coming up after John Casey. We're also going to have a special call out to Joe McBurdy. Joe's fighting cancer at the minute. He's up in Dublin there, and the Killybegs Club are running a special charity game from Infantra this week, so we're going to promote that game. There's some legends of Donegal GA going to that, so it'll be great to catch up with Joe and just see he's getting on as he battles cancer, as I say, at the minute. We wish him all the best. Joe, of course, has coached all over Donegal, coached the county team, and is of course coaching up at St Peregrine's. Really well got up there, so it'll be nice to give a shout out and see how he's doing. But first up, as I say, we're going to speak with the one and only John Casey to give us the lowdown on line one. He's on here. Joe was telling me we're going to speak with John now to get his reaction to that defeat yesterday to his own man Mayo. John, how are you this evening?
Keeping good, Brendan. I'm not sure if I qualify in the legends category, but anyway, I'll take that any day. I'm giving a compliment.
Well, listen, John, you're a legend in my terms, anyway, because...
Thanks very much.
I'll tell you what, I see you around games and that. I think you're a brilliant man at analysing. I love to hear you in the commentary. You've seen a lot of football this year, which I want to actually ask you about once we get to that point. And even before I do, and we mentioned yesterday's game, John, the buzz around Mayo, and I hate to in any way, I suppose, look at what's went previous to it, but this Mayo team this season so far really looked the business, and we've seen it many times before, John, where we've kind of maybe overtalked them or where are they going or they look like they're contenders. But there's something different about this side, John, just in the build up to this. I don't think you had any fear, let's say, of coming to Balbuffet this time round.
Well, there's a long-winded answer to that synopsis, Brendan, and I suppose you and I sat beside each other when Mayo played Donegal in the first round of the National League in Markievicz Park last year when Mayo had to concede home advantage when McHale Park wasn't available, and Mayo absolutely robbed a draw off Donegal that day. A game we should have lost quite easily. We ended up stealing a draw at the bitter end. And I remember actually being on a podcast with your good self after 4 rounds of the league last year when Mayo were cruising at 3 wins and 1 draw from the first 4 games, and your same self was raving about how great our chances were and how we were going to be unstopped and nobody was coming near us, and James Horan was making 5 changes from match to match and we were still blitzing teams, and it wasn't long, Brendan, before it all came crashing down. So not being around the last time we lifted Sam Maguire and waiting all of 72 years, Brendan, we're far from going to get carried away at this early stage. But to counter that, they are playing some fantastic stuff. They're playing really well. And if I would always have a fear going into a big game for Mayo that something is going to go wrong, that they're not going to perform against a Dublin or a Kerry or a Galway. I'm naming them 3 teams because they're the big hitters at the moment, Tyrone, you name it. But right now, I wouldn't have that fear. If they were playing any of them tomorrow in a huge game, I said, you know what, they'll have a right crack at this. And it probably resonates, Brendan, because right here at the moment, there seems to be an absolutely massive feel-good factor. There's a really positive vibe, and that vibe is transforming from the management to the players, and then from the players to the supporters in the stand. And you can feel it at games that everyone is a little bit happier about things. And I suppose, but the grim reality is we felt like this at a stage last year as well.
Yeah.
And it all came crashing down. We got blitzed in a league final, lost to our old enemies, Galway in the Connacht Championship, and went out very easily and very tamely to Kerry in an All-Ireland quarter-final. So there is that fear there, but at the same time, you've got to give massive credit. Kevin McStay has come in with a high-powered management team. He is so good himself, Brendan. I'm sure you've known him from the times we do gigs up in Croke Park and around the country. He's very media savvy. He knows what point he wants to get across, and what I enjoyed, I listened to him yesterday, and what I enjoyed, like he actually told us he wanted to go up and beat Donegal in Ballybuffet yesterday. There was no beating around the bush. He says, well, we're not here to lose the game. We're going to... And that's something that's very, very positive. So things are going well, but we all know too well that, things can come to a horrible end, especially from us Mayo folk, but they are playing really well.
Well, listen, John, you say a horrible end. Listen, I played in a generation where we never got to a final, and I always and listen, I've been in many podcasts talking about this, saying that, listen, I know players that have made a final and talked about it for the next 20 years, just making one. So there's one thing I'm not doing is certainly not criticising Mayo for everything that they've brought to it. And again, just some of the scenes we seen, particularly I think after the Kerry game, the pitch invasion. I mean, parties like, oh, that's a bit OTT, but then you're like, listen, what's it all about? It's kids, it's a buzz. I mean, I'm looking, you have scored double what we've scored in the league, which is a bit scary. And I think the way the modern game's going, and probably what gives you that little tilt of maybe possibility, is that the game has become a game about outscoring teams, particularly at Croke Park. Everywhere really, but especially at Croke Park. So if you've got that armoury, and it's one thing which maybe you seemed a bit short of in previous years, was were you going to get enough scores? That's somewhere you're looking at now, seems to be coming around, that there's scores coming all over the park.
All over the park. I think it was 8 from memory. It was 8 we had yesterday, and when I suppose one way I'd be looking at it, Brendan, I'm a devil for looking at who gets picked on even though I know it's by votes and whatever, who gets picked on the GEA team of the week. And like Mayo have had representatives on that every week, which is always a good sign. I think they've had the last 3 players of the week from the last 3 weekends of the National League, and Aidan O'Shea is up for grabs for that one again. But the point I am making actually is a long way of making it, but different players are standing up every week. Yeah. Jack Carney 1 week, Diarmuid O'Connor, O'Shea, Matty Ruan, what a first half yesterday. Enda Hession scored a goal that any forward would be proud of, the going against Tyrone with the dummy solo. And that's probably where Mayo are looking at it. And yesterday was the first time I think the management team actually went selected as a match day programme. I think one or two of the journalists might have had a little dig at Kevin McStay going, what's the point in buying a programme if you're going making sweeping changes and we haven't a clue what's happening? So that's one thing I think Kevin McStay takes on board. He actually listens to people, and he does things the right way if he can. So it is a very positive aspect of the game that the scores are coming from everywhere. I mean, my own clubmate, who I've been itching to see on the pitch, wasn't getting any game time. Paul Towie, he came on the last 2 minutes yesterday. Thankfully, Aidan O'Shea gave him a lovely assist for a score and play. But he shot the lights out, Brendan, in the club championship in Mayo here last year. He actually marked Michael McKiernan, the Tyrone cornerback out in Chicago, scored 20 points on him, and yet he can't get a sniff at the first 5 rounds of the league for Mayo. So we're like, oh, so that just giving you some idea that things are going well, and our man of the match yesterday, Aidan O'Shea, who was in beast mode, he seems to have got a new lease of life again. Yeah. And there was a time, Brendan, he wouldn't even take a shot at goal. Now he's taking frees and catching marks and loving it, and you can see he's playing with a new lease of life and a new confidence, and you've got then the likes of Killian O'Connor then to come back into the fold as well, and that's one thing, Brendan, I think you can notice from the match yesterday. And this is no reflection, but Mayo went after the forwards, especially O'Shea, went after Sean Patton, and he said, I'm going to go after this guy. I'm going to tackle them hard. And I think that's something, apart from, I suppose, getting a few more scores than we normally would. We've got 4 of the most aggressive forward tacklers in the modern game. Killian O'Connor, Aidan O'Shea, Jordan Flynn and Ryan O'Donoghue. And them guys get their hands on you. you're in the honey trap and there's no coming out, and they've done it in more games than not, and it's created turnovers, Brendan, very high up the field, which in turn is creating chances to score.
Yeah, and Joe, at the start of the season, particularly, you had the new management, and it looked like a good management fit, but it was a few guys that were around the block a small bit, in terms of Rochford and that, and of course you have, people stepping back in from media, as you'll have to at some stage, John. It's coming. You can't sit on the media fence all the time. Says me, I better watch. But listen, Lee Keegan retires. Oshie Mullen obviously goes to Australia, and you're thinking, right, huge blows to Mayo. No more than ourselves losing some of our top men. I mean, Lee Keegan, is Michael Murphy-esque in Mayo, of course. But listen, as I say, there is this buzz around you, and I know you were back a lot earlier than us, and there's loads of reasons, John, why this has been such a tough season for Donegal, because of injuries and a few players actually not committing to the team, the management coming in late. Listen, I know you said, people tell me 8 or 9 challenge games played before the league game. You look like a team's moving at a different level. I mean, what did you make of Donegal yesterday? It was as if we were hanging in there for a while, but the power that Mayo has was on a bit of another level. It was, people talk about challenge games, and it was too easy,
It was worrying, Brendan, from a Donegal perspective. There's no beating around the bush about it. Lots of aspects. I mean, I was at the first round of the league, the Kerry and Donegal, when Donegal beat Kerry by a point up in Ballybuffet, and I think that created a very false sense of, I won't call it hype, but a false sense of hope, maybe a false sense of security that, we're fine here. It was all documented up there. I think we remember at the time saying how many players Kerry were missing at the time, that they were way back. But Donegal, let's give credit, were missing a whole pile of players the same day themselves. So it just gave a false sense of hope, I suppose. But there was very, very worrying passages of play from a Donegal perspective yesterday. The ease at which Mayo players broke down the middle, Brendan, for scores was... I mean, Tommy Conroy soloed the ball right through the heart of the Donegal defence. 3-4 occasions, nobody laid a glove on him. Ryan O'Donoghue for the goal. Nobody came to meet him to take a tackle. Jordan Flynn burst through the middle on another occasion. Absolutely nobody went near him. Again, O'Donoghue set up Ryan O'Donoghue for a point, I think in the 56th minute or thereabouts, right down the middle. No Donegal player laid a hand on him. And that's not the Donegal. Like, I just keep thinking to myself, if there was any of the McGees in the vicinity, that they would have nearly gone on and just stopped somebody with an unmerciful shoulder or something. But the thing that there was 2 kind of rooks in the matches yesterday, Brendan, when the ball went loose and went on the ground, and that's when you know whether a team is up for the fight or not. And there was one particular, a 29-minute ruck down on the right-hand side of the stand, Donegal attacking, and Ryan O'Donoghue, there was a couple of attempts by Donegal players to go down and come up with the ball, and Ryan O'Donoghue was the one that wanted it most and came up with it.
Yes.
And that kind of shows you what you're dealing with. And then another occasion, Aidan O'Shea I think it's Aidan O'Shea's point, actually. He got kicked the ball in along the sideline. He mishandled it. I think it was Brendan McCole and Owen Bond that were in the vicinity. The ball went loose on the ground. Aidan O'Shea still came up with it, rounded his man and kicked a point. And that just doesn't happen to the Donegal defence that we've known about for the last...
Do you know what worried me most about that, John, is because it was a do or die game for us. If we were sitting on 6 points and we were down in McKeel Park or wherever, I'd have thought maybe we just had an off day. But the fact that we were backs to the wall and we still played like that was very scary looking into the future. That said, John, the only wee thing I can say here is, it's going to be, we've got the league final coming up, we've got the Connacht Championship straight after it, we're into the group stages then we've got quarters, semis. It's going to be a lot of football. Is there only wee fear that Mayo's maybe a wee bit ahead of the game in terms of keeping that, keeping that buzz up? Because they look like a team now you would probably like to be at least in the group stages of the championship where they're playing at the minute,
Yeah, and as much as people will say about Connacht not being competitive, you have Roscommon and Galway both sitting, I think, second and third or fourth, second and fourth in Division 1. None of them games are a given. The Rossies are going to be waiting. They're probably happily glad that we're going to be in the league final the week before, out from playing them. But going back to the Donegal thing, Brendan, as well, it's something that I suppose needs to be remembered as well. Paddy Carr was very late getting into the job. Mayo, you mentioned it there. Mayo were 2 months, I think, ahead. Kevin McStay had been appointed. He was very late being appointed into the job. So I know patience is not for what people want to hear. But and the positive, if I'm not mistaken, I think they have a month from end of league. Am I right saying that?
Yes.
Till the first round of the championship against Down. So that buys them a little bit of time. Like back in our day, which seems like so long ago, you were given ample time. It was nearly like two completely different seasons, finishing your league, going into your championship. It's not that case now, but Donegal have that little added incentive that I think it's Down and Park Esler on around the 20-something to 27th or something of April. So it gives them a little bit of time to try and regroup. It's not going to be the easiest regrouping in the world, and there'll be a lot of hard questions asked, but that is something that I kind of was feeling a little bit sorry for Donegal, that they are missing so many players as well. They've a lot of long-term injuries, a couple of fellas failing to commit, and but then again, the one that you keep mentioning, I'm sure it's been mentioned several times, is they look a bit leaderless without Michael Murphy.
Yeah. I think, John, they have to, and you've played in teams that have gone bad for a while, I think they have to, maybe, listen, they're down to 2, they got to regroup and I suppose get a bit of identity around themselves, and you're going to get leaders and players, that are coming through. It's a very young squad by and large, so it's going to be a new squad. He said management and that coming in late, none of it helped. Listen, hopefully Down are looking at that video against yourselves. That's the best thing they could watch, I think, pre-championship, and we'll certainly be a lot better than that. I know that we'll get it together better than that. John, just before you go, last question, just looking ahead to the All Ireland, where do you see the pecking order then? Is it still a matter of taking the Kerry men down? I'm sure you wouldn't fear them at this point. The Dubs, Derry, Tyrone tucked them behind them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm always like, I know I keep saying it whenever I'm on the airwaves, but I'm waiting to see Dublin with all their players back, with Jack McCaffrey back and all these guys back in tow, just to see what they're really like. There is a couple of new Dublin fellas, but I think Kerry, no more than Donegal, struggling to replace Michael Murphy. Brendan, I think Kerry are struggling to replace David Moore in the middle of the field.
Yes.
And I just think his physical presence, like he's a giant of the game and has been for the last 10 years, as Murphy was. And you mentioned it there earlier, Mayo, or somebody said, I wonder how Lee Keegan and Nusheen Mullen are feeling right now with Mayo going so well. And I thought that's a very good question, actually, because they're nearly not being missed, although you'd both love to have them both. But yeah, for me, I still think Dublin are the number one contenders, and then followed closely by Kerry, Galway, maybe ourselves, and then Tyrone. So look, it's hard to call it, but I always fear the Dubs. I don't know why. I think it's because of the beatings down the years that we always expect to see them. But I certainly think that if Mayo can try to continue, Kevin McStay mentioned it there. This is what we were all wondering, Brendan, down here for the last 3 weeks: is are Mayo going to bow out now? But he's made it loud and clear. Winning is a habit. Winning is momentum. Yeah. Momentum is good. It makes you feel good. Let's keep going for it. And I'm sure that they have talked about the burnout factor, but it doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. But then again, it's only the 20th of March, so there's a long way to go yet. But let's not forget the All Ireland is early this year too.
That's it. It's just, I suppose, a thick and fast season, but it's not going to be drawn out. Correct. But certainly, you never know. Maybe a Mayo Galway final or something like that. John, listen. Thanks. Thanks. That would be great. That would be. John, listen. Thanks so much for wrapping up as ever. John Casey, always a legend in my eyes. Let me tell you.
Cheers, Brendan.
All the best. Talk to you later. That's John Casey there, rounded up, top man indeed. Listen, after the break, we're going to speak, as I say, with Joe McBurty. I'll catch up with you all then.
The DL Debate with Sister Saras Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Saras Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most cost-effective way. Simply sign up to our new job spot and we will tell our listeners about your vacancies both on air and online. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during our primetime shows, we will broadcast the latest job opportunities across the Northwest and into counties Derry and Tyrone. All job listings will be available online online at highlandradio.com. For more information, contact the advertising team on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, we're here for you.
Concerned about your health? Looking for a professional opinion? Where luxury care meets medical excellence, Kingsbridge Northwest offers a range of healthcare treatments and services. From head to toe, our private GPs and specialist consultants are available to assess, diagnose and treat any issues you may have, all within a tranquil and stress-free setting in Ballykelly. Why wait? Visit kingsbridgeprivatehospital.com for further information today.
There's a big freeze on the way, and it's good news for anyone thinking about changing their home energy. Because Calar are putting their prices on ice with a 2-year price freeze when you switch to Calar LPG. A cleaner alternative to oil, Calar Gas is ideal for cooking, hot water, and heating your home. So, switch today at calargas.ie, and very soon the only thing feeling the chill will be your bill. Terms and conditions apply.
Starting a new chapter can be the most thrilling thing in the world. And the new all-electric Audi Q8 e-tron range marks the start of something even more exciting. Where progress is a matter of character. Where an idea stretches as far as you wish to go with the range to get you there. And where charging times are reduced, freeing you up for even more adventures. Discover the fully electric Audi Q8 e-tron range at your nearest Audi dealer.
Sleek, smooth, safe, modern. Oh, you want to hear more? Do you want to drive the most modern car in Donegal? There's a reason why it's our county's favourite car. The brand new diesel Kia Sportage, the multi-award-winning SUV, is available at iMotors now. Our team will take care of all of your needs. Visit imotors.ie or call in to us today, because how you feel when you drive is important to us.
If I learned one thing in the last year, it's that falling into debt can happen to anyone. Luckily, I heard about the ISI, the Insolvency Service of Ireland. Their professional advisors can help you restructure or even write off your debt. The first thing they said to me was, every debt problem has a solution. I can still feel the relief. So if you're worried, visit their website backontrack.ie or free text Get Help to 50015.
The ISI. Together, we'll get you back on track. This is an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
The one and only Tom Jones is back, and we're going to be there. Join us as Highland Radio hit the road to see the timeless legend as he headlines Belsonic 2023, Friday 16th of June. Your trip includes luxury transfers, bed and breakfast in the 4-star Clayton Hotel Belfast, and your standing ticket to the outdoor event. Contact us today on 074 9125,000 to see Tom Jones at Ormo Park, Belfast, Friday 16th of June. The DL Debate with Sister Saras Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Saras Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Yes, welcome back. I'm delighted to say I'm now joined by Joe McBurdy, more affectionately known as Joe Barney, of course, by his friends, which I count myself as one. Joe, listen, I just seen there at the weekend there's a special game in Fintra for you next weekend. There's also a Twitter page set up Cycle Run Row for Joe. It's on Twitter there. Joe, the home club in Killybegs, wanted to do something for you as you fought an illness there in Dublin currently.
Yeah, that's correct, Brendan. Appreciated you for making contact with me here this evening. Yeah, the club and obviously my home club Killybegs, I'm very grateful for what they've done over the last couple of weeks to organise this. It really means a lot to me. And obviously with the calibre of players that are going to be attending on Saturday, you know, it's really given me a boost as well over the last couple of weeks. As you know, my adopted club here in Dublin, Perrigans, ran an event too, which was greatly supported, and I have to be very grateful for them, both the players and management and the executive of the club, because they've been outstanding support over the last number of weeks.
Yeah, I talked to some of the Perkins people when I've been up in Dublin, Joe. They've made it time for you. Have you been coaching at all ages there and setting up underage camps? And I know you've coached in Donegal. I heard somebody said you've coached Kilcar, Glencombe, Kellen, Killybegs. They didn't know anybody else who had done that. Of course, the pinnacle of coaching is to coach your county. You've done that as well. I was there when you coached Donegal, Joe. So you've had a phenomenal time in GA up to that, and it's nice for people to respond now at this time of need.
Yeah, naturally, and as I said, earlier on today, it's obviously the GA community, number one, that when you need them most, they'll always be there, no matter, obviously we've all fallen out with people in other clubs and so on at games, but the support I've got from the general GA world in Donegal and all over Ireland as such, but I just can't thank everyone enough, because the support I've got since just after Christmas has been immense, and it's really what's drove me on to try and fight this illness more than anything.
Yeah, you get the dreaded diagnosis after Christmas, Joe, and you're just in treatment there now up in what hospital are you in?
I'm in Beaumont. I actually got word on the 23rd of December, would you believe? First of all, that so can I put a dampener on the old Christmas, especially for my partner Maura and the son Faker. It hasn't been easy for them the last number of weeks, but it wasn't what I expected to hear. But the support from everyone, naturally, number one, give me the drive, and I said I wouldn't hide it, that I would come out and tell everyone, because I could easily have just closed the door and said nothing and let it get the better of me. But I said no, I'm going to meet this head on, and the support from the wider community, etc., has given me that strength.
Yeah, listen, and I've met young Faker along with you at Crow Park and that, and I was ringing you tonight. Me and you be texting. The two years was on the PlayStation there playing a bit of FIFA and what have you, Joe. And listen, you're 100% right. You're a great fella. And listen, the game's down as a Legends game. I didn't get to shout myself. I don't fit the Legends category. I get that. I would have did Waterman or something for you,
I'm sure if you're available, there'll be a spot for you, no doubt.
I was in Nets one day for St Eunan's college. I couldn't get in the team. Paddy Tunney stuck me in Nets, so maybe there'll be a role for me there.
Well, unfortunately, I won't be able to make it on Saturday, but my family will be there to represent me, obviously. But I know the lads are trying to organise getting lads on. But I'm sure if you arrive with your boots, there'll be a spot for you.
Dust them off. It's been a while now, Joe, let me tell you. But Joe, listen. Yeah, go ahead.
You done a great job when you were playing. Fair play to you.
Aye, not too bad. Listen, there's some good coaches there, let me tell you. Joe, listen, just behalf of everybody here in Donegal, listen, you coached that many of us, and that many of us know you. You've made a big impact in Dublin. So listen, we want to wish you all the best in that game and your fight there as time goes on as well. We're all behind you.
Cheers, Brendan. I really appreciate it, and thank you for contacting me.
No problem, Joe. Take care, sir. Yeah.
Right, all the best.
All the best, bud. Take care. Chat to you soon. Aye. Joe McBirdy there. Listen, wishing him all the best. A great guy indeed. Listen, I say earlier in the day, Frank Craig of the iconic sports media group, sports editor he is with him now, or Frank. He gave me a wee interview around Donegal, and we wrapped up the rest of the sport of the weekend. As I say, Frank was busy tonight coaching, so I had to catch up with him by Zoom, and here's his interview. Right, Frank, welcome to the DL Debate. How are you this evening?
Not too bad, Brent, and yourself?
Or this afternoon, as the case may be.
Pre-recorded.
Anything to get you on, Frank? I know you're a busy man, coaching underage and all that. You're passing on that skills and that knowledge and know-how to the next generation,
Trying to give a hand. It gets you out of the house, Brent. It's an excuse and a reason to get out of the house in the evening. Enjoy it, so do.
Yeah, fair play. Now listen, Frank, give it to us straight. As a man, I mean, we're all, I suppose, seasoned Donegal fans here. Where are we at? Relegated, and let's be honest, Frank, I suppose rightly so. The league table doesn't make good reading. Neither does any of the columns in it around scoring and defence. Are we where we're at, Frank? Are we in a bit of a time where we're taking on water and it's going to be a while before it stops?
Yeah, definitely. Donegal are a really low ebb at the minute. You're kind of looking at Brenton and a side that's very lacking in confidence right now, for the simple fact that we suffered, these losses in the league that, we're as good as relegated heading to Roscommon. I mean, we're going down regardless now, really, what happens there. And you kind of just have to step back and kind of examine it on its own merits. I know, listen, we've talked so much about the big dark cloud that's kind of hanging over Donegal on a number of levels. It got an airing again last night on the Sunday game, that academy row. But it's the players and the Donegal management that I kind of feel sorry for, because Paddy Carr was kind of pressed afterwards on whether it was having an effect, and you could see him trying to choose his words very, very carefully. Regardless of what those people say, Brenton, it definitely has to cast a bit of a shadow on that there. And the players, like, they stayed about after that game yesterday, signing autographs and getting photos. I think they had a young Four Masters team in the dressing room. It's very hard to be critical of them. I just think at the moment, looking at that game, coldly and calculated yesterday, I think it's very obviously there seems to be a real lack of a game plan there, Brenton. And I think the players are probably a reflection of that there. Like, these aren't bad players. I just think, the management came in late. The way they came into the job was pretty rushed. The selection process kind of got an errand 2 weeks ago. Jim McGuinness appeared on a podcast. It kind of almost sounded like every other avenue was tried. People said no, and listen, we had to go with Paddy Carr and Aidan O'Rourke. And that's very, very unfair on those individuals as well. So they're well behind on what they're trying to do with this here side. And I think you can see when those bases aren't covered early doors, the slide can be quite quick. And the same can be said of when organisation is in place. I mean, you look at Rory Gallagher and Derry, you look how Jim came on board late 2010, it can be changed around. I don't think we've become a bad team overnight. Obviously, Michael Murphy stepping away, Paddy McBrearty injured, Ryan McHugh obviously absent through injury as well. And they're big blows, but there's plenty of talent in that side, and I don't think what they've shown in this league campaign is a real reflection of where we're at. We're better than this, Brenton, definitely.
Yeah, and I get your point about probably when Jim came on, the quick turnaround that, but there was a nucleus there, Frank, that was able to compete, and it had proved that a few seasons previous. I'm looking at, if we're cold light of day, the nucleus of this team doesn't seem to be there at the minute. I think without...
Well, we've the benefit in the hindsight, Brenton, looking back now, but you have to remember that famous story about Donegal and the Irish News, there were 22 or 23 out of 32. I mean, Donegal wouldn't be there right now. Yeah. So that's how far...
I think it was 17, 18. I don't think was that fair, Frank. Yeah, I know what you mean. Listen, it sounds better. You're sensationalising it. No, listen, right, I get your point. We had fallen off the mark. But what I mean is that team, the nucleus of that team had competed a few seasons previous. They just had a couple of bad seasons, particularly in Championship and that, where they weren't really at it. But you still knew that man for man, there's a nucleus there. I'm just wondering now, if let's say for devil's advocate, that say McGuinness was to come on next with Rory, let's say Rory Kavanagh and Kerr Lacey, have they got enough of that type of player in there to mould a team that's going to jump to that level, for example?
Well, when you're looking for a nucleus, you're probably talking about lads that have been there and done it. But I mean, Donegal's last All-Ireland final at 2014, that's what, 9 years ago now. So you're looking at what's come in between that there and kind of has some traction under it. From Sean Patton through to Owen Gallagher, Ryan McHugh, Paddy McBrearty, he's injured, Michael Langan, even Jason McGee coming in there now. Like there is experience there. Like, I don't care what anybody says, Paddy Morgan, there's quality, and there's lads with 3, 4, 5 years under the belt. This thing about transition and an experience, I don't completely buy into that, because I mean, last year we lost an Ulster final. I think that maybe on another day we could have won. Yeah, obviously the reason we've mentioned since, Michael, Paddy and Ryan not being there for very different reasons, like that will be a blow in a dressing room. Like Neil McGee maybe on the pitch was a spent force at that stage, but that's a very big voice behind a dressing room door that still would have let a group of players on Sunday know in no uncertain terms, Brenton, that just wasn't good enough. And maybe the point you're making, maybe there's weight in that there isn't those 2 or 3 lads that, I don't even know if you make them like that there anymore, that maybe round the dressing room up, close the door and dish out a few home truths. Lads are built a different way now, and you have to move with the times. I still think the likes of Hugh McFadden, Ryan McHugh and that are probably still having their say in that there dressing room. I just think at the minute, modern players aren't mugs, and I think if you're going into battle or you're going out onto a football pitch without maybe a very identifiable game plan, you will be found out. Now, Kevin McStay is a very intelligent fella. He's got Mayo really in sync, but we could see what Mayo were doing yesterday. There was no secret about how they set about their business. you couldn't see that there in Donegal, Brenton. It seemed, I think we competed up until maybe, the midpoint of the first half, 4 points each, and then, blink of an eye, it's half time and we're 11-6 down. I think what got us to 4 points each is just maybe a bit of off the cuffness and hoping for the best, and maybe Mayo just settling into the game. For whatever reason, and again, I'm trying not to be critical of the management team because they've been dealt, a bad hand anyway from the very beginning. I just think there was no obvious game plan there, and when that's the case in modern football, no matter how good or how talented your players are or aren't, they're going to be found out.
Yeah, and I guess in that, listen, we respect the boys, is what you're saying and what they're doing.
Like, just like you need it, and that is that's the point in a lot of the narrative out there at the minute, on and off the pitch. You have to kind of look for a balance. Yeah, and I think you kind of have to go back to the start, Brent. Really, maybe the start of the first bit of negativity, which kind of was that drawn out managerial process, and people kind of forget now. Like, there wasn't a great endorsement of the new management team the night they were even unveiled. Like, they were given a 2-year deal, but with a review after one. And I thought that was terrible. Yeah. And it was something that, like, why even state that there? Yeah, privately tell the guys it's there for 2 years. And like any management team, I think there's always an annual review. Anyways, like, it's going to be very hard to pull the nose up on this here now, Brenton, because we've had such a bad league campaign. We've won, we've one game left to go, Roscommon. They probably just want that out of the way and then get stuck into real championship work. And I think likes of Aidan O'Rourke and Paddy Carr and Paddy Bradley will probably be grateful for that respite, because even though it is a condensed season, I think Donegal kind of are a bit unique in a sense. They still have maybe 4 or 5 weeks maybe to that they're gaming down. So they have time now to really get to work. It's been a disastrous league campaign, to be fair, because of the new management team. They probably needed to hit the ground running. But like I said, like, for those guys like Paddy Bradley, Paddy Carr, they're brilliant. They answer the phone, and just, they're very personal people. And I hope for their sake that they can prove everybody wrong and maybe get this here right going forward now. But again, because it's very hard to pull the handbrake on this here now when there's so much negativity out there for a variety of reasons. I mean, things are low ebb, but it's making national headlines now every other day. You wonder what's left to come out of the woodwork again. And again, I'm only chatting about this because the academy obviously is still a backdrop to all this here. Like, what's next on that there front? And I think for the players, they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
But Frank, though, just looking ahead now, like, if you look at different teams, obviously Armagh in this last 8 or 9 years have gone down to 3, Derry have gone down to 4. They're now sitting up there in the pinnacle of 2 teams that could have an All-Ireland tent. So this thing of Donegal maybe technically going down, you've a bunch of new players. And what I'm trying to get at with the core of the team, I suppose, in that, Frank, is maybe sometimes things have to get a little tough, or you have to go down before certain players take control of the team or become the kind of leaders in that. So in many ways, maybe going down to 2, it isn't the end of the world in terms of this team maybe finding their own identity, for want of a better phrase, and coming back up as a more, I suppose, tougher opponent than what we've seen in the league so far.
You'll probably be able to put a bit of context on that there only after seeing how we get on maybe in championship, Brenton, and maybe a good championship run. And I know this new format, even outside also the All-Ireland series, if it gets to that stage where Donegal have found a significant improvement between now and going to Park Esler, yeah, listen, Division 2 wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But maybe staring into a Division 2 campaign next year off the back of a disastrous summer, they're 2 very different things. And again, like, it goes back to that original point I made, where they lumped Paddy Carr and Aidan O'Rourke with this 1-year review. You need to keep that there in mind as well. So, like, there's going to be choppy waters ahead, I think. But for the lads in charge there and for the team, I hope that they can get the show back on the road in championship. I mean, I don't think we're expecting, a provincial win, but there'll obviously be that there new system in terms of that. I think it's like the best way to describe it is Champions League kind of format in the All-Ireland series. The landscape in Ulster looks treacherous. I mean, Donegal, Monaghan and Tyrone have probably been to the fore, obviously, over the last decade. But now you see Armagh, Derry and even down Stirling again. It's going to be harder than ever, really, Brenton, to get back to the top of the mountain there. A lot of uncertainty just going forward. But again, everyone would feel a lot better of things improved in summer and championship. But I don't know how you find that improvement, Brenton. And again, I don't want to sound wild negative, just on the evidence of what we've seen so far. it's very hard to be positive on it. That's bluntly honest, you know.
Yeah, and listen, Frank, I suppose in the games, this was a do or die game at Mayo, as we know. They had like 8 or 9 challenge games before the league even started. They were back training for weeks before we even had our management team together. They are moving at a different level. It just was a bit scary just to close off this league, how far ahead they were. Now, they have blitzed other teams and they have looked unreal, but the gap between us and them, Frank, yesterday was massive.
Yeah, you're looking at two sides maybe with, I suppose, two very different sport levels of aspirations. Like as you say, Mayo will have huge designs on an All-Ireland title under Kevin McStay. They have a very difficult opener in Connacht against Roscommon. Obviously, Roscommon have lifted their, I suppose, levels this year in Division 1. They've been a revelation. We probably expected to be going to Roscommon next week with so much on the line for both sides at the start of this campaign. That's not the way it's transpired. But yeah, you can see the difference in levels, Brenton, but maybe not just levels inside the pitch in terms of experience. You know, like there's still a core group of very experienced players there in Mayo. But as you say, that extra time working, you know, that extra know-how, like Kevin McStay's a shrewd lad. I think they look like a side that's moving pretty well. They probably realised as well, you know, the likes of Aidan O'Shea and these guys, that the window's kind of closing on them as well, late 20s, early 30s. It's going to be a big summer for them, and even outside Ulster, just from a neutral perspective, it's going to be a very interesting All-Ireland series because even the likes of Derry will probably view themselves as contenders. Kerry won't go away, they're champions. Dublin are coming again. Yeah, listen, it's going to be a brilliant championship, I think, this summer. It'd just be interesting again how that all works under this kind of new sort of Champions League style system, how that there'll have an impact on it. But certainly in terms of contenders, you've probably more fingers up this year than you might have had maybe over the last 5 or 6 years. And that's healthy because that Dublin dominance for a while left us all a wee bit disillusioned. But it's kind of evened out across the board again. And 4 provinces are kind of represented in that conversation as well, which I think is always good.
Yeah. And just last question, listen, you mentioned the management already and it's been tough on them and I suppose how they've been treated since they've come in. There's been so many setbacks around players retiring, injuries, players stepping away. It's been a real a minefield for them. But Frank, there's only probably, I'll take your word on this, there's only one way I think Donegal can approach this, and we need to almost replicate a Derry, and it kills me to say that, but unless we protect our defence, and listen, the team kind of attacks is one, it is the only tactic for a team like Donegal that's vulnerable now. And I say that, Frank, with due respect to our defence, because our defence have been manfully doing the best. They've been under the cosh more. It's a forward line that we haven't been able to deliver, so we really need to cut the scores down completely because we're not able to score enough, and that would have always been the thing I was least worried about. It's now the thing I'm most worried about. So really, Frank, from the two parties in Eden, we got to find a way of playing that type of system, Rick. As much as it kills me to say it, it's our only real tactic going into, we hit that provincial groups, whatever about Ulster, and we're playing top teams who want to try and take us apart. We got to sit and hit. It seems to be our only game plan going into the summer.
Well, that's a wild disappointing thing because, their pitch coming in was about changing, the style of Donegal football. And trying to do that in Division 1 was always going to be hard. And are we trying to do that under the circumstances? Maybe they found themselves in the job. That's another thing entirely. Yeah, really disappointing to look at how we're so vulnerable now in defence, which, as you say, maybe was a concern over Declan Bonner's period as well, when things started to go belly up inside the province. And now all of a sudden, with Michael gone, Patrick injured, Ryan not around there pulling the strings, all of a sudden we look toothless in attack as well. So the issue there is maybe reverting to type, as you say, which we didn't want to do, which is maybe trying to consolidate and getting men behind the ball. And I certainly wouldn't be one to criticise if that's what they end up doing, but yeah, maybe starting with Roscommon next week, get that out of the way and get a game plan locked down for summer and going to down. But as you say, it might have to be a cautious one and safety first, which is it's funny to be saying and funny to hear you endorsing.
I know. Good man, Frank. You're managing all there, lad. No body. Frank, listen, I want to put that to one side. Just at the weekend, there was 2 defeats and 2 victories. Of course, our ladies lost with our men, our minors and our hurlers won. Just first about the minors, Frank, they're coming through and showing up well. Luke Barrett's side there again with another victory, and I suppose if we're looking to the future, we seem to have a good underage side coming through.
I listened to Miners, Cavan at the weekend. I think there's 4 or 5 points in it, 113 to 1-9. I think they finish up with Sligo, Brenton, in that group section, but they've already qualified for the Jim McGuigan Cup. Tyrone and Fermanagh already beaten Tyrone. Luke Barrell, tell you himself, they kind of used this here competition very much to look at maybe their second fringe players. But I like Luke Barrett and I like what he's trying to do. And again, no different than maybe Leo McCloonan under 20 setup. I hope they aren't collateral damage in all this kind of academy row as well, because they're in here for this season now because their season's already started. Like, I hope we don't get to the end of them whenever that is, and those lads drop off as well, because I thought there was an interesting line of succession there. I thought maybe Luke, in time would maybe progress up to under 20. You might see the likes of maybe an Eamon McGee and a Leo McCloonan and even a Colin McFadden maybe dip their toes into the senior setup. Like, there's loads of things kind of at play there now. But in terms of Luke Barrett, he's doing a really good job there. And fingers crossed as well that there kind of progresses. There's not much on the line now at the weekend in their final game against Sligo, but I'm sure they'll be hoping to finish the round robin with a win, and then they're looking forward to that their Jim McGuigan Cup final.
Yeah, and Frank, another team obviously that was used to competing at the top, and not to say they won't in the championship, but Donegal ladies, only one going down. They still have a chance on the last day, but again, heavy defeat to Dublin, 2-13-6, and I know there's experienced players who come back in that, Frank, but we've really found the going tough this season. And again, you don't like that word. I suppose the interchange or the change in the squads and that, but certainly it feels like Donegal maybe is in that wee transition period at the minute.
Aye, listen, they're probably the one side that can make peace with the results, because there has been such a changeover in personnel from the side that got to a league final last year and got to an All-Ireland semi-final. Probably felt they left a game behind them against eventual winners Meath. The funny thing is, regardless of losing all their games so far, Mayo, Galway actually done Donegal a huge favour on Sunday, but beat Mayo. So it comes down to Donegal and Mayo next week. And if Maxie's side actually get the win against Mayo, they stay in the top division. But the bigger picture, I suppose, for Maxie and that there, looking at the transition, there's 6 or 7 girls that are absent from last year, but the real big quick question, and they're kind of coy on this, is who exactly is coming back into the mix. I know Niamh McLaughlin's come back into the mix. I see Katie Hearn's come back into the mix. I see Karen Guthrie in around the vicinity of it all, obviously probably itching to get back, but still question marks over 2 or 3 other girls there. So I think that I think the force that Donegal were in the last 3 or 4 years, and maybe the ambitions they had in terms of maybe, that holy grail of an All-Ireland, that might just be out of reach now. But if they can get 2 or 3 or 4 of those other girls that we've talked about back into the equation, they'll still be a force with an Ulster. And listen, all would be well that ends well if they can get the one over Mayo and stay in the division. Because you look at, the Donegal men's plight with 3 points and no chance whatsoever. There's a mathematical equation there that you can dig out that they can stay up, but listen, for all intents and purposes, gone. Like Maxie Curran, the Donegal ladies know if they beat Mayo at home to Mayo in O'Donnell Park, they stay up. So hopefully they can do it.
I see the Irish News has it relegated beside us already, Frank. I think they've decided as far as. We'll just finish up in the hurlers. Bounced back from a tough defeat to Wicklow last week. They're heading for the semi-final. A semi-final, of course, that I don't think they're too worried. I think Wicklow and Meath are the 2 sides that want to go back up into Division 2A. But certainly Mickey McCann's side again, with a great victory, just a 1.18 to 117. They're heading that semi-final. And I suppose a strange mindset over the hammering they took off Wicklow last week that they're playing them again. Of course, Wicklow are in the Nicky record, so how much do you think Mickey will show his hand in this semi-final? And I suppose, does he want to show the Wicklow, listen, we can match it with you if we need to, or does he hold back and then go for them in the championship, later on when the championship kicks in?
That's kind of interesting. It was such a poor performance against Wicklow the week before, and it probably maddened Mickey. He probably could have accepted defeat, but maybe the manner in which it came about probably irked him. We sent Tom Comack along to that there on Sunday because there was an overlap. What's the Donegal Mayo game? But even Tom speculated in his report, if either side really wanted to win it, and I suppose then instinct probably kicked on near the end there, and Donegal just got over the line. But there's probably value in it for Mickey, Brent, in the sense that there was a response from the week before. They did it without, I think, Declan Coulter, Danny Cullen, Gavin Brown, Stephen Gillespie, maybe one or two others were missing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they approach this here game now. We talk about that there, like pride, like it was dented the week before, but I don't even know, those lads that we've just mentioned that are missing, he's not going to risk them in this kind of game either. So they'll be short again the next day. And as you say, Wicklow are a quality side. Mickey will probably be turning one eye towards, as you say, Nicky Rackard anyway. But probably the value in it was that they bounced back and they'll get another game now to maybe look at a few other players not there as well. If you're part of a squad and you want minutes, like you'll get the opportunity there. But I think Mickey's probably looking at the bigger picture of the Nicky Rackard.
He is indeed. Thanks very much for that, Frank Craig. A great wrap up there. Just on the previous interview with Joe McBurdy, that's of course this Saturday, 25th of March at Eamon Byrne Park, 3 p.m. is that play for Joe. Well, coming up after the break, we're going to hear from a team on the up and up and their manager, Rory Geller.
The DL Debate with Sister Saras Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Saras Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Hello, thanks for waiting. Could you hold the line?
Yeah, no problem.
Now, how can I help you?
Hi, I'm looking to make some updates to my insurance policy.
Have you tried our online portal?
I thought it would be easier to call.
Yeah. No. You're going to have to log on to amend your policy. Thanks for calling.
No, wait. I don't know my password.
Get the feeling that your insurer doesn't want to talk to you? At Local Insurance, we understand your needs. Call today for a bespoke quote or find us online at localinsurance.ie. Local Insurance, we'll get you sorted. The Local Insurance Network, DAC Trading's Local Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Local Insurance is a tied insurance intermediary of Acorn Brokerage Limited. Acorn Brokerage Limited, trading as Acorn Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
There's a big freeze on the way, and it's good news for anyone thinking about changing their home energy. Because Calar are putting their prices on ice with a 2-year price freeze when you switch to Calar LPG. A cleaner alternative to oil, Calar Gas is ideal for cooking, hot water, and heating your home. So, switch today at calargas.ie, and very soon the only thing feeling the chill will be your bill. Terms and conditions apply.
We all love Irish Music Month and the artists that make it. We're taking part in Irish Music Month in partnership with Hot Press magazine to promote the amazing work of Irish artists in every music genre. Across the country, we're putting Irish music first. We're playing more Irish music than ever before, and we're going to pay Irish artists €100,000 to play and perform for us on independent radio stations across the country. We're committed to promoting Irish music. Are you? This is Irish Music Month, supported by Hot Press, IBI and the BAI Sound and Vision Fund. The DL Debate with Sister Saras Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Saras Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Yeah, as I said before the break, a team on up and up is Derry, and their manager Rory Geller caught up with Michael McMullen after their victory, securing promotion at the weekend.
Back to the top flight, Rory. Exactly what you would have wanted at the start of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. You would have liked to get promoted, and you try to win every game, and when you win 6 in a row, we're just delighted, because obviously last year winning 5 and drawing 1 wasn't enough. So it's a great reward to the players for the way they stuck at it and the way they took the impact of not going up last year on the chin and responded well.
The extra week after Dublin, was it important to get the thing regrouped again or not?
It doesn't make any difference whether you're playing the next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You just have to train and get your head around and prepare and be ready to play, and we were.
And finally, how important was it to get the job done before Cork?
I think it's just very important to get it done. We're playing Clare at home, so we are. We want to win at home. I suppose ultimately then against Galway, we didn't show up last year. Just important to take control of the game today, and I thought we did it, and we won unbelievably comfortably.
And you talked about playing against the big teams. A final in Croke Park is something I'm sure you'll want your players to revved up for.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, ultimately from now, all along it's the 15th of April you're playing Fermanagh in the Championship, but ultimately you use all these games as preparation, and you obviously want.
Yes, indeed, Rory Geller on the way up and up. Listen, I want to thank everybody who contributed to the show this evening. I'll speak to you all next week. Check this.
The murder of Bobby Ryan saw him win a significant legal challenge in the Supreme Court. The highest court in the land has ruled that the seizure of his computer, from which evidence was presented at trial, was unlawful because of an issue with a warrant. Our courts correspondent Frank Graney reports.
In 2019, Patrick Quirke was convicted of murdering Bobby Ryan. It